So this short ceremony is one that we've adapted from the monastic code, and whenever monks leave a monastery, they always ask forgiveness from their teachers or senior monks before they leave, or if there's some kind of conflict, then this is one of the main ways of resolving conflicts between bhikkhus. The one who is the junior assumes the responsibility for the conflict, even though he may not be, in fact, the instigator. But in order to effect a resolution, it's the junior who comes and asks for forgiveness from the senior, and asking if I have done or said anything which may cause you distress of any kind, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to your face, behind your back, then please forgive me. And the senior monks, aham kamami tumhepyamekavitabang, which means I forgive you, and if I have hurt you in any way, please forgive me. And then the senior monk gives the blessing. So it's a very beautiful custom of mutual forgiveness and living in a hierarchical institution. It's I've always found it very skillful convention that the younger person, the junior person, assumes responsibility in order to allow some resolution to take place. And once the junior has expressed some contrition, then the senior can also do that. So monastic life, based on the vinaya, the precepts, and there are thousands of rules, not just the 227 rules of the Patimokkha, literally thousands or tens of thousands of rules, or precepts, training rules. And they are integral to the way of life, the monastic culture. But there's a counterbalance, and the counterbalance to the hierarchy and the rules is this openness to feedback. And once a year, there's a formal declaration by every member of the monastic community that they are open to feedback from everyone in the community, from the abbot down to the youngest member. And we're always reminded by our teachers of the example of Venerable Sariputta. So one of the minor rules is that the sabong, the skirt-like robe that monks wear, should be even all the way around. And I'm not sure exactly why, but one day Venerable Sariputta's robe was not even all the way around. And a young novice, teenage novice, admonished him, gave him some feedback. He's probably thinking, hey, he's always telling me about my sabong. Now's the chance to get my own back, But Venerable Sariputta just took it so humbly and so sweetly, that it immediately sort of went into the annals of Buddhism. This is how a senior figure in any organization receives feedback from the most junior member. So what we see over the history, the course of Buddhist history and Buddhist monasticism, is that local cultural forms and prejudices sort of worm their way into the monastic culture, and certain aspects of the monastic culture become stronger and certain become weak. So in, say, like Thailand, which is itself a very hierarchical culture, or has been, then the hierarchical elements of monastic culture have been well preserved, but the feedback culture has not. I've had arguments with I've had discussions with other monks about this, and talking about the importance of feedback. They say, that's just a Western thing. We don't do that in Thailand. And it's not like a Buddhist thing. I said, well, actually, it's in the Vinaya. It's part of our monastic culture that we've allowed to sort of wither away a bit. Anyway, feedback, being open to feedback, is an important part of monastic training, and would like you also to see it as a part of your own life and training. Nobody enjoys feedback, I think, but be patient with it, and also recognize when people give you feedback, it might not be accurate, but usually there is a good intention behind it. So look at that intention and don't feel, we say noi chai is there's a word, English word, people don't really use these days, which is a direct translation, is pique. It's a French word, Pique. But I guess offended is probably, don't be offended when somebody admonishes you about something which is incorrect, or they've got the wrong information. Because if you react badly, then people clam up. They don't want to give you feedback anymore. And you're the loser by that. And so you get this when people say, if you see anything, you can tell me, okay? Just give me some feedback. Yeah, sure. Who would dare, So you have to really mean it. And again, from formal practice, one of the lessons we learn is how many blind spots we've got, and how easy it is to become imbalanced, and to, once we begin to see something in a particular way, then this confirmation bias kicks in, and everything we see reinforces the way we started to see something, and all the evidence on the other side of the coin is lost to us. And this is why what seems to be a contradiction in the Buddha's teaching is in fact a very profound element of it. And that's, on one hand, the Buddha is saying you should be an island to yourself. You should be self-reliant. A Sotapanna is someone who no longer relies on anybody else. Become true island. And only you can do this practice, and only you can. So this kind of self-reliance theme is very strong. And yet we have this famous occasion where Venerable Ananda says to Buddhas, good friendship, Kalyana Mitta. I think it's almost like half of our life, half of a holy life. And it was just, say not so, Ananda, say not so. Kalyana Mitta does like the whole of the holy life. So on one hand, you've got these teachings about self-reliance, and on the other hand, you've got all these teachings about good friendship. and I think that we can reconcile them, or can see how they are not in fact in conflict with each other, saying that the only way we can reach that point of say emotional independence, spiritual independence, is through good friends. So finally, at the reaching the higher levels of attainment, then less and less need for feedback, and but still, there are, even an arahant can make mistakes. An arahant's not Superman or Superwoman. And sharing our thoughts and our concerns with each other and giving each other support is, well, I'm sure all of you know how vital that is. And during the COVID period, where not really possible to go to monasteries and do retreats in the same way, then so many online groups sprung up, and that new form of Kalyana Mittata started to take root, and I think it's a very, very good thing. But in retreat, the retreats are set up so that you are with your peers and people who are struggling with the same things you're struggling with. Maybe there are some people who are a bit further along the path and can be some inspiration to you. And there's some people who are struggling even more than you are, and you can be some inspiration to them. So when we can get away from that sort of competitive attitude and look at ourselves as friends to others, trying to be the best friend we can. And what does that really mean, being a good friend, and seeking good friends and creating good friendships? In the world, you'd not have this supportive structure. You're not having social pressure to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, so you have to find some way of creating the chanda and the desire to do it, not like it's a chore, but it's something that you really want to do. So it doesn't mean you will enjoy it every time the alarm goes in the morning, but you have that ability to stand back and see the big picture, and this is really overall really what I want to do. So this wise desire, chanda, Dhamma chanda, is so vital. The Buddha himself spoke about this again and again and again. And you have to want to do this, and you have to find reasons to make you want to do it. Wanting to do something is not a defilement, if it's something wholesome. But wanting to receive the results of something, then you're into the realm of craving and the suffering that arises. But we have these old tendencies, and what tends to happen is the mind is swinging from one to the other. So you can start off with an unwholesome intention, and then you can purify that wholesome intention. It becomes a wholesome intention. But if you're not careful and you don't look after it, it can go back to being an unwholesome intention. So there's this, it's not like a one, you can say, oh, now I've put unwholesome intentions and motivations behind me. You have to be constantly vigilant. And the Buddha's last teaching, the Paccimma and so he chose which is the one teaching, succinct, like short teaching, which will be of most benefit for future generations. And the Buddha teaches appamada, heedfulness. And heedfulness means really sounds a bit strange, but the technical meaning is non-separation from mindfulness. And another way of talking about heedfulness is taking nothing for granted, nothing at all. So sometimes things happen in life and it's, I just had no idea, out of the blue, something like this, yeah. Who would have thought? But yeah, Buddhist, you would have thought this through, because you're constantly reflecting. I am of the nature to age, I am of nature to sicken, I am of the nature to die. I'm going to be separated from everyone and everything I love at one point. You have to go into this again and again and again and again until it becomes part of the way you look at your life and relationships and the world you live in. And this is a lot of what practice is. You have this theory and you have some experience, but now it's integrating it. It's like, maybe like the Dhamma is like an ink on a blotting pad, and it's just like spreading out until it fills the whole of the blotting pad of the. And and teachings like impermanence and the inevitability of separation and the uncertainty, unpredictability, then these are gradually seeping into your mind. And this is the important feature of practice in daily life. So it's an incremental advance. My favorite simile, I'm sure you've heard this one before, it's not my own, it's one of the great teachers, that practicing Dhamma is not like going out in the rain, it's like going out in the fog. You go out in the rain a few steps and you know you're wet. You go out in the fog or the mist, you'll maybe walk quite a long while, and only when you get home you take off your coat and you realize it's soaking wet. And this is how these qualities, this right view, right understanding, how there's a reordering of your priorities, there's a clarification of your values. There are these changes that are taking place, and often they are invisible, or we don't give them too much importance because we're looking to like meditation experiences and jhanas and jnanas, and of course those things are part of the path, integral part of the path. But if our eyes are set too high, we set the bar too high, we don't observe this incremental increase in the quality of our life and quality of our mind, the quality of our mindfulness. Then we don't get the reinforcement. We don't become empowered by those changes. We don't become inspired by those changes because we're looking for something more. So be very close and precise and aware of how things change as you practice, and how what's important and what's very important, what's most important, how that changes, and don't resist that. This is the evolution. You find what can be painful is you find certain people and certain relationships you're sort of moving away, and others you're moving towards. That's part of the evolution. So apart from being not taking anything for granted, apamada also means readiness. It means ready for whatever life is going to throw at me. So we're aware that not only is everything changing, but it's changing at an increasingly rapid rate. And so how do you find some kind of stability, security in a world that is changing so rapidly, and in many ways, in frightening ways? And the answer for many people is just to shut your eyes and just try not to think about it. The other most popular solution is to adopt a story or a narrative, a religious narrative, which is comforting to you. So most religions offer this kind of story. You're part of a plan or something like that. Everything happens for a reason. So you have these little phrases that just sort of nip off the bud of anxiety. But the Buddha is saying we face up to in uncertainty. We come to terms with uncertainty. And the idea that there is this solid person, me, surrounded by this like flow and incredible kind of change and insecurity and And where do I stand? Where's my solid ground? That's the mistake you make, because you yourself are part of that flow. You're not separate from that. One teacher said, it's the realization is like you jump out of an aeroplane and you realize you don't have a parachute. Okay, that's the bad news. The good news is there's no ground. Okay. So this sense of studying, understanding change, and your confidence is not that you can create a story like some kind of a blop jaya. So I'm thinking in Thai, some way of just sort of coming to terms, creating a story to make it feel better. But you are right there with the way things are, and you know that you have the tools to deal with change. So whatever happens in the world, whatever's happened in your life, whatever's going to happen in your life, there's only 5 things actually you have to deal with. Pali first. Rup, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. So the body, feelings, perceptions, mental factors, sense consciousness. So whatever the name of the latest thing, the latest challenge, the latest fearful appearance in the world, we can only ever know it through our experience of the 5 khandhas. This relates a little bit to the point I made the other night about the all, that, I thought, why, I've seen all these different things and I could carry on traveling, make some money on a farm in Switzerland and go to India and then go to Sicily and pick oranges and make some money and then go to, I could do that. I had a friend who did that for about 30 years and then he fell down dead. So that's another story. Anyway, I thought, but why, because at the end it's just more forms and more sounds and more tastes. But here it's, again, our experience is always of the 5 khandhas. So AI, climate change, and so on. These are things to take seriously, and there are in the world decisions to be made. So we're not advocating just sort of going within and ignoring all that, but recognizing that our experience, all we know is our experience of these things, our experience of the physical body, of feelings, of perceptions and thoughts. And that once we have this awareness and mindfulness, and we know these things for what they are, there's nothing new under the sun. It's the same old, same old. And so it's like, what's it like? Try to think of a simile. Yeah, it's okay. So I don't know, this is not very kind of monastic simile. Let's say you're a high-tech soldier with drones and automatic rifles and infrared and all that kind of stuff, and you're conquering a country where they have weapons like spears and bows and arrows and stones and rocks. I mean, actually, there's some parallel to a contemporary conflict, but that's not intentional. So the point is, you have that confidence that, bows and arrows, stones, rocks, because you know that your protection is such that whatever the details of the challenge, that you're ready for it. So in a modern kind of American slang, it's like, bring it on. It's like, I've got faith, I've got effort, I've got mindfulness, I've got samadhi, I've got panya. These are the 5 powers, the five, you've got these things and you're ready. So moving away from trying to control things towards training yourself to be ready for whatever comes up. And a point I made already is that the clearer you see things, the more the good qualities arise. So there is a fixed causal relationship between goodness and wisdom. So the more you understand where you've come from and all the things that have happened in your life, the more gratitude you feel. The more you look at your relationships with other people and the difficulties that have arisen, and then the more you see the value of precepts, the more you observe the feelings that arise when you recollect the good actions and qualities you've developed, then the more you see the beauty of them and the more you want to increase them. So this is virtue arising from observation. An example I often give, if you give something with some ulterior motive, whether it might be material, financial, or it might be emotional, you want some praise, or you want some status, then you can feel quite good when you do that or you give that. But what happens as time passes, when you recollect that, you might even feel a bit embarrassed, but more likely you just feel kind of nothing. It's the memory of a transaction. That's what sticks in your mind. There was a transaction. I did this. I gave this in order to God, like I did. But when you give something, you share something, you make some sacrifice, you do something with a pure heart, with altruism, without any expectation of reward, what happens as time passes? It becomes stronger and stronger. It just becomes a wonderful refuge to you. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you think of that good act that you performed, and you feel good, you feel bright and clear and happy. So this is what we call a noble treasure. The Buddha said, accumulate noble treasures. So nobody can steal that away from you. The memory of the good things you've done. And then also, you can add on to that the memory of good actions that you've seen other people perform. This mudita, you see, that this is, this is a tip you should know. It's the lazy person's path to enlightenment. I speaking as an inherently lazy person, It's like, shall I do a good thing? Never mind, I'll just sit and let's say, Bo's done a good thing and I'll enjoy that. And Julia's done a good thing. And wow, it works. I just feel really energized. And I'm just sitting here thinking about it, So, people always talk about metta and karuna, but mudita, it's a hidden gem, You just open your mind, because, how many good things can you do in a day? Very few, probably. But when you expand to everybody and everybody, wow, suddenly, it's like it's like being tapped into the internet, infinite resources at your fingertips. Yeah. So this is a noble treasure, ability. All you have to do is just put that kind of competitive, jealous thought to one side, and then you open up a whole beautiful world. So be aware of these resources, accumulate these resources. And when you're feeling down and depressed and lacking in self-confidence and so on, then recall the good things you've done in your life. And immediately, I've done that. No matter what I've failed to do in my life, the failures in my life, I've done that. And wow, I'm so glad I did that. And I feel so, and you can. So people feel, I'm afraid I get sort of proud and conceited. No, that's not it. Ajahn Buddhadasa said, you should live your life in a way that when you review certain things you've done, you should be able to, it's like, wow, So try to incorporate that into your life, because we all need to be happy. The question is, where do you find your happiness? If you're not finding it, you're not skillful enough, wise enough to find your happiness in wholesome, skillful things, then you'll end up looking for it elsewhere. So this is why we need to train, because the unwholesome forms of pleasure are so easy to access. And the wholesome one, you just have to push a little bit at the beginning, particularly. That's why patience is so important. How many of the most valuable experiences in life are easily obtained? Almost none, I think. Very few. So if you have this kind of fear of discomfort, fear of pain, then your life has just become so constricted and narrow. Because all of the good things in life, which will only come through being willing to bear with discomfort and difficulty, and are shut off to you. My memory of the things my father taught me are generally in these little kind of little sayings that my father would repeat. And one of his favorite ones was, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well. I don't know if you know that one. So he said, well, if you're going to do this, then do your best job, don't just play around at it, do it well. And that was one of the things that I received from my dad. But after some time as a monk, I actually changed, but I didn't reject that altogether, but I think there's a very good case for saying, if something's worth doing at all, it's worth doing badly. And what that means is we often restrict ourselves, we don't realize our potential because we don't want to be seen to be foolish, or we don't want to do something poorly. We want to do it well. And if we can't do it well, let's don't do it at all. So learning languages, this is good. I mean, I learned Thai quickly because I was very motivated to learn it. But I didn't mind mispronouncing words and people laughing at me. And I thought that's part of learning language. I didn't mind speaking Thai badly in order that sometime in the future I'd be able to speak Thai well. And some people who live in Thailand for years, and they never get the Thai language down, it's not because they don't have a head for languages, it's simply that they don't want to go through that difficult page where they make a fool of themselves. So when something's worth doing, being willing to bear with the discomfort, whether it's physical discomfort or mental discomfort, and just push through that. And that's also part of the Dhamma. There's a story of a monk, I think he's a monk, walking towards the mountain. An old lady sitting by the side of the road. He said, grandmother, how long will it take me to get to the mountain? And she doesn't answer. Grandmother, how long does it take? Doesn't answer. Third time, doesn't answer. So he thinks she's deaf, old lady. And he walks on a few steps, and then the lady says about 7 days. And he said, grandmother, why didn't you just tell me that when I asked you? And he said, well, I had to see how you were walking, how fast you were walking, and how committed, how determined you looked. And so how long does it take to get to Nibbana? Well, it depends how you're walking, what speed you're walking at, what kind of sacrifices you're willing to make, how important it is to you. But Okay, I have another important point that's just come into my mind that I want to share with you. Last night I talked about dukkha as being a koan, and that understanding the koan of dukkha is the penetration of all Four Noble Truths and liberation. But to add to that, I would like to say today, only a happy mind can understand suffering or dukkha. Okay? If you're suffering, your mind is not strong enough. It doesn't have the qualities needed to really understand dukkha, or the three characteristics. So enjoy your meditation. Find ways of enjoy your Buddhist life. Don't have to be so strict sometime. Sometime with precepts, people just get so kind of uptight about precepts. And precepts are guides, they're refuges. You look after your precepts, they'll look after you. But they are for the purpose of non-remorse and for creating harmony and sense of trust and safety in communities. But like if you're keeping 5 precepts, and you want to watch a movie every now and again, it's okay. You're not going to fall into a hell realm, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. I'm trying to meditate, but every now and again I can't help myself. I want to watch a movie, or I want to listen to a song. And what's the big deal? It's all right. That's a problem if you take on 8 precepts. That's when you say, I'm going to put aside my liking of these things in order to simplify my life and to have more focus. But 5 precepts, part of the way that as a layperson you propagate Dhamma is that you keep 5 precepts and you show people that you lead a normal life, a happy life, fulfilled life. You're not some kind of weirdo, like 5 precepts is the smart way to live your life. It's the smartest way. Because if you really understand the law of karma, there's no way you'd break any of the precepts. It's because you don't have that insight yet. You don't understand causality. You don't understand what leads to progress, what leads to regress. You don't see the importance of progress and the danger of regress well enough that you're willing to compromise on precepts. But keeping the precepts well, this is spreading the Dhamma. You don't have to give Dhamma talks and preach to anybody. And I think that as a Buddhist monk even, we're forbidden from teaching anybody who doesn't ask us, who doesn't want us to teach them. We can't just, I just can't go up to someone on the street and say, have you seen this book, Stillness Flowing? It'll change your life. Can't do that, Well, all you can do as a monk is like you dress like this, okay? So a bit weird, okay, and shave head and this. But this is so that people know who you are, and then people come up and say, are you a Buddhist monk? Yes, I'm interested in meditation, or can you say, and then you can teach. But it has to come from the student. It can't come, so this is why we don't have this like evangelical converting people of other religions to Buddhism. That's not a part of our religion. Indeed, it's one of the reasons why Buddhism is trusted and is so popular in the West these days, because it doesn't have an axe to grind. It's not trying to convert you. And you should adopt that same principle. Sometimes, usually it's ladies who want to change their husbands rather than the other way around. But so what do? Get in the car, put in a CD, or Ajahn Jayasaro. Don't say anything, and the husband. So be sensitive to their human rights. they have a human right not to listen to Ajahn Jayasaro or to any monk. Make sure someone's interested first. You say, look, I really find this valuable. If you're interested, I really like to tell you my experience or why it's important to me. But if they're not interested, well, that's all right. It's more how you live your life, and if somebody knows, oh yeah, they used to be so grumpy and miserable, and since they've been practicing Buddhism, bright and happy and kind, and wow, there must be something in this Buddhism. That's how you spread the Dhamma as a layperson. People see it's made a real change to you. You're more content. You're more grounded. You're more happy. So we encourage you all to propagate the Buddhism in this way. If somebody wants a book or wants a link, then yeah, you're ready to help them out. But don't be one of these kind of pushy people. Have you heard the good news kind of person? In England, there's a particular Christian sect called Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're the most notorious because they get like women with children, small children, and they go around and knock people's doors, and like that's their thing, and they have all these leaflets and books. And everybody's just so fed up with these people, and they go on like workshops on how to put your foot in someone's door and prevent them, I think, because they're really good at it. The moment you open your door, they've got a foot. So my mum, she got this big frame photograph of me, and she had it right by the front door. And whenever they open the door and they see this little old lady, and she, oh yeah, this will be easy. And then my mum, this big picture, we're Buddhists. She says, and these missionaries, like, it's like, oh, okay. So this is one of the ways that I helped my mother during. Give her a big picture. Yeah, so, humor can be liberating, and if you ask most of the monks who've been monks for years and years, what is your secret to being a monk for so long? And they usually say, good sense of humor. That's helps you as much as anything else. But there's humor, there's destructive humor, and it's not humor, it's like making fun of somebody and lifting one group up and putting another group down. And because defilements, stimulating people's defilements is an easy way to a quick laugh. But that's not what we're talking about. It's more just seeing how funny we are, how funny defilement is if you look at it, and just how humorous life can be. And that's a sense that you can open up to. So enjoy your life as Buddhists. This is important. Enjoy meditation. And if you don't, then you're doing something wrong. Why am I not enjoying this? What is the defilement there? What is the craving? What is the expectation that's preventing me from enjoying this? So this is not like an eccentric take on Buddhism. If you look in the teaching on, we call the Arya Wangsa, the Arya Wong, the lineage of noble beings. And the Buddha says one of the characteristic features of a noble being, a noble monastic, is that they enjoy abandoning the unwholesome. They find joy in it. They find joy in developing the kusala. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be so kind of serious, or, it doesn't mean being flippant and being silly and just making jokes all the time. But there's a lightness and a brightness to this practice. And some of you may remember the occasion where the Buddha is talking with King Bimbisara, and all these members of other sects come along. They're all kind of skinny and haggard, and it's sort of like serious. They're sort of probably been laying on beds of nails all night, and they're just getting out to light a fire on their head or something like that. And Buddha says, why is it they look so miserable, and the Buddhist monks all look so happy? So the Buddha said, well, this is the Dhamma. This is the Dhamma practice. It makes you bright and clear and see things clearly. Don't make mountains out of molehills. Don't make big issues out of small things. But at the same time, not heedless about small things, because small things can become big things. So there's that wisdom side as well, a clarity of mind. So I hope you've all enjoyed this retreat. I've enjoyed it for sure. And I'm fortunate person. I enjoy my life generally. But this last few days particularly, very pleasant. So express my appreciation to all the people who've made this possible, the Nui and Dang, who are always in the background and working hard and making sure everything is smooth. And then we have the Julia and the group and so many different people who've Buddha and Bo, of course, and Nop, who's been looking after me, and Plern, and so many different people. My anumodana to everyone and to all of you.